Let me ask you something. Have you ever worked harder than everyone else around you and you still felt like your business refuses to move forward? Like you try new marketing ideas, you buy courses, you read books, but somehow the results barely change. Now, if that sounds familiar, there's a good chance that the problem is not strategy. The problem is a habit that you don't realize you're running. Now, most founders believe that success comes down to effort. Work harder, learn more, push longer hours. Sounds reasonable, but I've coached founders who work like 70-hour weeks and they still feel stuck. And then I meet someone else working 40-hour weeks and they're growing twice as fast. So what's going on? It usually comes down to pattern recognition, not business patterns, personal patterns. Because your business often grows at the same speed your internal programming is. And if that programming has limits, well, the business hits those limits too. But let me show you how or what I see constantly. A founder experiences pressure, like cash flow drops, a client leaves, or a deal falls through. And then your nervous system starts to react. The brain enters survival mode. And that survival mode activates familiar habits. Not always the best habits, just the most practiced ones. Now, for some founders, that habit looks like procrastination. And for others, it looks like overworking. Some, maybe it looks like shiny object syndrome, trying 10 strategies instead of mastering one. Does that sound familiar to you? Your brain is trying to protect you. But the protection mechanism often sabotages growth. One of the strange things about founders, many are extremely intelligent. Like they see patterns in the market, they see trends early, they solve complex problems. But intelligence does not override habit loops. Your nervous system always wins, which means when pressure hits, your brain defaults to what it feels is safe. And safe doesn't always mean productive. Sometimes it means avoiding difficult conversations. Sometimes safe means chasing a new idea so you don't have to face the old one. This is why founders often say things something like, I don't know what I should do, but they still do something else. What is that gap? That gap is habit. Now, this is exactly why I developed something called the Limitbreaker Method, because founders do not usually need more advice. They need help breaking the pattern. The method follows a really simple sequence. First, we regulate the emotional state. You cannot solve problems when your nervous system is in panic or euphoria. Secondly, we identify the pattern, not the business tactic, the habit that underlies that, right? The thing that's underneath. Now, third, we measure the cost. What does that pattern cost you in your business? Maybe your relationships, your confidence. And fourth, we interrupt the pattern. This is where the real work happens. And finally, we install a new behavior and reinforce it until it becomes automatic. Because habits are not broken through motivation, they're broken through repetition. Let me give you an example. A founder once came to me saying that they needed help with marketing. They believed that their problem was lead generation. So we looked at their business. Their marketing was actually pretty decent, but something strange kept happening. Every time the prospect showed strong interest, they delayed the follow up. Like days would pass, sometimes even weeks. Now, when we dug deeper, we discovered something interesting. They were afraid of the rejection. Not consciously, but deep down, rejection triggered something old. So the brain protected them. They did that by avoiding the situation entirely, which meant that the marketing problem was actually an emotional pattern. Now, once we addressed that habit, the business started to grow again. Same strategy, different internal programming. Now, this is why so much of business advice fails people, because it assumes that the founder is a robot. Just apply the strategy, right? Follow the steps. But founders were human, and human beings have identities. We have memories, we have triggers, we have defense mechanisms. And those factors shape every decision that they make in business and in life. Now, you can have the best marketing strategy in the world, but if your internal programming avoids the discomfort, you will sabotage the execution every single time. Now, the biggest breakthrough I see with founders happen when something shifts inside their identity. They stop seeing themselves as someone who struggles. They start seeing themselves as someone who adapts, maybe someone who learns, sometimes someone who just decides to run and break their limit. And that is where the word limit breaker comes from. Not someone who has no problems, but someone who constantly evolves beyond them. Now, every founder hits limits, okay? We're all human. The difference is whether you treat that limit as a wall or treat it as a signal that something in your programming needs updating. If you are finding this helpful, do me a quick favor. Subscribe to the channel. Every week, I break down the psychology behind habits, leadership, and business growth. Most founders try to fix their problems from the outside. This channel focuses on fixing the patterns that drive it. Now back to the video. Here's a question I ask founders all the time. What habit is quietly shaping your business results right now? Not your marketing strategy, not your pricing. What is your habit? Is it avoidance? Overworking? People pleasing? What about fear of judgment? Because once you see the pattern clearly, something interesting happens. You stop blaming the business. And then you start upgrading the system that runs it, which is most importantly, you. Now, if this video resonated with you, start paying attention to your patterns this week. Watch how you react under pressure. Watch what type of decisions that you make when things get uncomfortable. You might discover that the habits have been running the system all along. And if you want help breaking that pattern, check out the resources in the description. Now, there's a lot more coming here about the Limitbreaker Method. And if you are the kind of founder who refuses to stay stuck, you are in the right place.